Thank you so much for watching Signs and Wonders. Welcome back, everybody. If you're new here, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, commenting, sharing. You guys, let's help get this message in front of as many eyes as possible. Please share my videos. And yeah, I just want to say I love you guys and thank you so much. Thank you so much to my Patreons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much to those of you who have been helped these last couple months. You guys are amazing. I love all you guys. Thank you so much. And enjoy the video. God bless. We are living in an ever-increasingly tense world these days, and we are seeing many end-times events unfolding right before our eyes. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps says the country is now able to monitor the world from space, after successfully launching its first military satellite into orbit. The US has accused Tehran in the past of using its space program as a cover for missile development. And President Trump, without addressing the launch directly, has threatened to destroy Iranian gunboats, which he says have been harassing US ships at sea.
On Wednesday morning, the world awoke to news of a secret operation carried out by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. From a launch site in Iran's central desert, it successfully used a two-stage rocket to put its first military satellite in space. The Noor, or Light, is now 425 kilometers above us, orbiting Earth. The head of the Revolutionary Guards says it gives Iran's military new strategic advantages.
It is a necessity for such powerful defense forces like the Revolutionary Guards to have access to advanced capabilities. Today, the powerful armies of the world have no comprehensive defense plan if they don't have a place in space. Today, we can monitor the world from space, and it means boosting strategic data for the IRGC. Putting the satellite into orbit gives us a technological advantage, and it's also a powerful asset in the intelligence war.
Iran has put satellites in space before, but the success of the Noor comes after several failures in recent years. It's expected to be used for intelligence gathering, secure military communications, navigation and reconnaissance, whatever leaders need to support from the sky Iran's military assets on Earth.
There will be famines. Widespread famines of biblical proportions. The UN is warning COVID-19 can cause an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. They're saying the number of people who cannot get enough to eat could double by the end of the year. That's more than 250 million people. 21,000 people already die of hunger every day. And that number could soar if people don't get help. Food supplies are limited by lockdowns and people's incomes are drying up. Poor countries affected by conflict, economic crisis, and climate change are particularly at risk.
Even prior to the first coronavirus case in South Sudan, many faced starvation. That's the result of 5 years of fighting between forces loyal to rival political leaders. The conflict ended in February with a new transitional government sworn in.
If my children survive, I want them to go to school and to learn to take care of themselves.
Before the coronavirus emergency, aid organizations estimated more than half of the 12 million population would need food aid this year. Nearly 30% are women and children. The war forced a third of the population from their homes. 200,000 of them are now in UN camps around the country. Hundreds of thousands of others are in hard-to-reach areas. For them, food drops are sometimes the only way they'll get food.
Last year, we had to feed 5 million people due to fighting and flooding. Already in 2020, we've had locust invasions, and now there is the COVID-19 pandemic, which we predict could almost double the people in acute hunger by the end of 2020 across the world. The only way we can halt this trend is if generous funding for humanitarian crises like the one here in South Sudan continues.
Floods last year affected nearly 1 million people, forcing the declaration of a state of emergency in some parts of the country. Then a plague of locusts in the eastern part worsened an already dire situation. The UN describes the insect threat as extremely alarming and unprecedented.
The UN says this could drive a wave of refugees and threaten an exponential rise in social unrest. The World Food Program has previously been pledged $1.9 billion and is urging donor nations to live up to their commitments. There will be pestilences. The World Health Organization chief warns the virus will be with us for a long time and that the African pandemic is just beginning. The head of the World Health Organization said on Wednesday that he hoped the Trump administration would reconsider its suspension of funding, but that his main focus was on ending the pandemic and saving lives.
Most countries are still in the early stages of their epidemics, and some that were affected early in the pandemic are now starting to see a resurgence in cases. Make no mistake, we have a long way to go. This virus will be with us for a long time.
There will be signs from the heavens. Massive damage the other day as huge tornadoes tore through Oklahoma and Texas. People lost their lives and millions of dollars in damage was done. We should just be praying for the families and the survivors and the victims of this tragedy.
Video from Oklahoma shows one of several reported tornadoes. The storms also causing major destruction in Texas.
Across both states, at least 5 people have been killed and dozens injured.
Oh my God. Look at that, right above J&I.
This morning, a massive tornado caught on camera, roaring through southern Oklahoma, slamming into a sheet metal business. The twister sending shrapnel hundreds of feet into the air.
Golly, it's huge.
Witnesses say several vehicles were thrown into trees and the semi-truck blown over.
But look at that. That thing is getting larger and larger and larger. That thing is violent. That is a violent tornado.
Overnight, officials in Oklahoma confirming at least 2 people were killed from the storms.
Here comes the rain.
Farther south in Texas, this tornado touching down in Polk County, injuring at least 10 people. Local authorities declaring a disaster, reporting significant damage to homes and public infrastructure. Pictures of the damage showing homes destroyed and trees splintered. Jessica Willey of our Houston station was there.
You can see huge trees were uprooted. You can see power lines are down.
And this morning, new drone video showing one neighborhood devastated.
In Yemen, rain of biblical proportions has been falling, causing massive floods. Yemen's government has declared the southern part of Aden a disaster area after heavy rains led to flash floods in the city. The Prime Minister has asked other nations and relief organizations to help as the flooding could spread cholera further. The country is currently fighting one of the world's worst outbreaks from the disease. Nearly 6 years of fighting have damaged Yemen's infrastructure and health systems.
It was a desperate attempt to stop this couple being swept away. Strangers leapt into a street in central Aden, fighting to pull them free of the current. It is rainy season in Yemen, but with neglected infrastructure, the water makes its own path through the city, turning roads into rivers. Many were caught out and had to be saved from their vehicles. These boys trying to cheer up a woman they rescued by singing to her. Compounding the trauma is that this also happened a month ago. Then the UN had to bulldoze thousands of tons of rubble and mud off the streets. Almost 5,000 families were displaced. The water also harbours an invisible danger. Yemen is battling a cholera outbreak, a disease spread through water.
So not only are we dealing with all this, guys, but they're saying that the fallout from this COVID-19 is going to be worse than the Great Depression of the 1920s, and it's going to take years before the economy bounces back.
In the United States, where figures just out paint a devastating picture of the state of the economy. In just 5 weeks, all of the jobs created since the end of the 2009 recession have been wiped out. Here are the numbers. Last week, another 4.4 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits. That's fewer than the week before, when more than 5.3 million registered for jobless support. But the speed of the rise in those figures is unprecedented. In all, more than 26 million Americans have now applied for unemployment benefits since the end of March. That was when President Donald Trump made the first of his COVID-19 outbreak
declarations. The unemployment insurance
declarations.
offices across the country processing these claims as quickly as they can, but not able to do it all at once. So what we know is that many Americans had struggled to get through on the websites. These are antiquated systems that just aren't just designed for this kind of demand. And so as a result, we know that these numbers will continue to climb for a number of weeks.
Also something neat, but very post-apocalyptic. A good note to end on, actually, would be the fact that ever since this lockdown has been happening, all kinds of animals that haven't been seen for like 100 years in these large numbers are appearing. It's really kind of spooky, but it's really cool at the same time. Like, for instance, tens of thousands of pink flamingos have been descending upon regions around Mumbai, India. India has been in lockdown since March 25th, resulting in cleaner air and water, with the improved quality of algae attracting migratory birds.
A sea of pink near the busiest city in India. As lockdown measures drastically reduce pollution levels around the country, tens of thousands of pink flamingos have descended in this area not far from Mumbai, and the residents are thrilled.
If you ask me, the lockdown has been fantastic. I think you can see nature regenerating everywhere. I can see birds, I can see all sorts of natural growth happening everywhere. I think it is fantastic. I think we should do it once a year, every year.
India has been in lockdown since the 25th of March. It's resulted in cleaner waters, which have improved the quality of algae. Environmentalists say that's the reason the number of migratory birds have gone up this year.
The air is much cleaner. There's no pollution. There's no human activity going around there. There's no construction activity which is seen around that place. So there are more birds coming into this place.
Some estimates say the number of flamingos migrating to India has gone up by some 30% this year. Environmentalists are already thinking up ways to keep those numbers high post-lockdown.
Also, a herd of dugongs cruised along amid shallow waters off the coast of an island in the southern Thailand. These mammals are a rare sight due to human intrusion and pollution, but travel restrictions imposed for COVID-19 have left coastal regions undisturbed. I love you all. Remember to pray and stay strong in your faith. Everything is going to be okay. And if you're new here, please subscribe. God bless you all and your families.